Greetings, and welcome to the channel dedicated to drowsy science. Things slow down here, whereas the outside world might be hectic and noisy. This is a peaceful setting where inquisitive minds can fall asleep or just unwind and learn a few things. We're seeing more than just forests, caverns, and seas tonight. We are entering them to uncover some of the most enchanted mysteries of nature. We'll discover marvels that most people are unaware of. Storms that have raged for centuries, trees older than entire civilizations, a flower that blooms only once in a lifetime, and stones that appear to walk on their own. We'll take a slow, fact-by-fact journey through deserts that suddenly bloom, rivers that flow beneath the sea, and the silent, inconceivable ways that life exists everywhere on Earth. You might be surprised by some of what you hear tonight. Like the smell of rain after a summer storm, some might linger in your memory. Before we start, please think about liking and subscribing, or just leaving a comment if these peaceful, inquisitive discoveries help you relax or provide you with a peaceful way to conclude your day. One drowsy soul at a time, it guides others to this place as well. If you're prepared, let's get started. More life can be found in a teaspoon of soil than there are humans on the planet. You seldom ever see the world beneath your feet. There can be billions of microscopic organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and other tiny critters like mites and nematodes in only 1 teaspoon of healthy soil. This living network recycles nutrients, decomposes fallen leaves, and even sends chemical signals to other plants. Although many of these creatures are too little to fully comprehend, taken as a whole, they serve as the cornerstone of all terrestrial ecosystems. Without them, the chain of life above the Earth would disintegrate, and plants would find it difficult to flourish. Researchers continue to find new species in soil samples, organisms that have never been identified or investigated. The idea that beneath the sole of your shoe is a bustling metropolis of life so enormous that it eclipses the whole human population, silently sustaining our planet, is a sobering one. Some plants are able to move quickly enough to capture prey. Most plants develop and bend over the course of days or weeks, moving too slowly for us to observe. However, other species move surprisingly quickly, so quickly that they can catch an unwary insect. For example, when microscopic hairs inside the Venus flytrap are brushed twice in rapid succession, the leaves can snap shut in less than a second. While the water plant spins its traps underwater, some desks bend their sticky leaves inward. Touch-induced variations in the water pressure inside the plant cells cause these motions. In a second, it's over for the bug. It explores for a while before being captured. Because they inhabit nutrient-rich soils, these plants obtain the nitrogen they require for survival through the capture and digestion of animals. It's almost unnerving to watch one in action, as though the plant has made a choice. Some trees have a 1,000-year lifespan. Trees so old that entire civilizations have risen and collapsed in their lifetimes can be found in the silent corners of the planet. Some bristlecone pines in the American West are over 4,000 years old, making them some of the oldest. They develop gradually, bending into sculpted shapes in the snow and wind. They were still alive despite their worn bark. A living record of each year that has gone by is kept inside the tree's core. Seasons, storms, and wet and dry years. By adjusting, allowing parts of themselves to die back in difficult years, and then growing again when conditions improve, these trees have managed to endure without being uprooted. Standing next to one means you are surrounded by something that existed before the pyramids were constructed and continues to silently produce new leaves every spring. Insects' minds can be controlled by some fungi. In the midst of tropical jungle foliage, an odd scenario takes place. Ants and other insects become infected with the fungus Ophiocordyceps, which spreads throughout their bodies. Once inside, it releases chemicals that cause the insect to change its behavior, forcing it to ascend to a high, exposed perch and leave its colony. In order to spread to others below, the fungus kills its host there and grows a stalk from its body that emits spores into the air. This isn't arbitrary. The position and height are ideal for dispersing spores as widely as feasible. It almost seems like science fiction to us. By taking over its host's neurological system, a parasite might use it as a means of reproduction. But it's a normal component of the intricate web of life in the jungle, and its accuracy is both unnerving and fascinating. There are locations where fish reign. Residents of Euro, a small Honduran hamlet, have a term for this uncommon but amazing occurrence: Lluvia de Peces, or the rain of fish. People find tiny fish floating in the streets and fields on a regular basis, usually following severe thunderstorms. Fish from surrounding rivers or the sea may be lifted by strong winds or waterspouts and carried inland before being dropped with the rain, according to scientists. While some residents consider it a natural oddity, others view it as a miracle. There have been similar accounts about frogs, crabs, and even jellyfish in other parts of the planet. Hearing the rain and seeing it sparkle with the movement of live things falling from the sky must seem unreal. Certain animals can endure being frozen in place. Some animals in the far north have the ability to freeze, which is the most drastic way to halt their life. For instance, during the winter months, the Alaskan wood frog can allow up to 2/3 of its body water to freeze to ice. Even though its blood stops flowing and its heart ceases pumping, it is still alive. Its body contains unique substances, including urea and glucose, that function as a natural antifreeze, keeping its cells from exploding. The frog thaws out, its heart starts to beat, and it skips away as if nothing had occurred when spring returns and the temperature rises. Similar tactics are employed by certain fish, insects, and even microscopic tardigrades. It's an apparently unfeasible survival strategy. However, over millions of years, nature has perfected it, enabling life to endure in regions where winter is more akin to a months-long hard freeze. Every day, millions of lightning strikes occur on Earth. There is lightning shining somewhere in the world right now. Over 90 strikes every second, or over 8 million strikes per day, are estimated by scientists. When electrical charges accumulate within clouds or between clouds and the ground, these bolts are created. In an instant, the air surrounding a bolt can reach temperatures of over 30,000 degrees C, which is hotter than the sun's surface. Thunder is produced when the air expands explosively because of the rapid heat. The sky isn't the only thing illuminated by lightning. It also contributes to the chemistry of our world by forming essential molecules for plants, such as nitrogen oxides. Storms are common in the tropics, where the night horizon frequently flickers with far-off flashes, serving as a silent reminder that the atmosphere is always teeming with life. There are fish that can walk on land. Some fish have adapted to swim above the water in swampy and tidal zones. The mudskipper, which is found in several parts of Asia and Africa, walks across mud flats looking for food and dodging predators with the help of its powerful pectoral fins. As long as it remains moist, it can breathe via its skin as well as the lining of its mouth and throat. Some fish, such as the climbing perch, can migrate between ponds and survive for days without water. Because of their peculiar adaptations, they can thrive in areas that are inhospitable to fish that are only aquatic. It's almost like witnessing evolution in action when you watch a fish pull itself along the ground. An insight into the prehistoric era, when life was beginning to experiment with the boundaries of the earth. Rain falls naturally in the Amazon rainforest. Because of its size and density, the Amazon produces its own weather. Through a process known as transpiration, the forest releases billions of liters of water vapor into the atmosphere every day. After rising, cooling, and condensing into clouds, this moisture feeds the forest that created it by falling back as rain. Even in drier months, this cycle keeps the Amazon lush and verdant. It also affects rainfall patterns thousands of kilometers distant, influencing weather far beyond South America. It's difficult to imagine the sheer size. The rainforest pumps water into the atmosphere like a big heart and shapes its own climate by exhaling massive plumes of moisture from above. Certain rivers run beneath the sea. Rivers can still run beneath the sea, where the sun sets. These underwater rivers are composed of sedimentary, salty, or thick currents that flow down the seafloor rather than fresh water. One such instance is the Black Sea, where a strong current stretches more than 100 kilometers below the surface. Like rivers on land, these rivers form the seabed, carry nutrients, and create channels. They frequently happen where bodies of water with varying salinities converge, forming a border where the heavier water flows independently and sinks. The layers are clearly visible in the faint underwater light, and divers who have investigated them describe an uncanny feeling as they float through one river inside another. Overnight, flowers blossom in certain deserts. Although deserts may appear to be dead, their soils can contain seeds that have lain dormant for years, waiting for the ideal time. Rare soaking rains can cause these seeds to sprout very instantly. The bare ground becomes a carpet of color in a matter of hours or days. As thousands of plants bloom simultaneously, there are yellows, purples, and reds. Only a brief period of time can pass before the heat returns, drying the blossoms and dispersing the seeds for the following cycle. These superblooms, which are an outburst of life against one of the harshest settings on Earth, can be seen from space in areas like Chile's Atacama Desert. It serves as a lesson from nature that beauty and abundance can suddenly materialize in the most unlikely locations. Even in the coldest winters, some lakes never freeze. Seasons don't apply to all lakes. While some lakes remain liquid throughout the year, most water surfaces in colder climates freeze into ice. This may occur for a number of reasons. Some get their nourishment from heated subterranean springs that maintain water temperatures above freezing. Others are quite deep, and the temperatures there help control the surface. Even when the surrounding terrain is frozen solid, geothermal heat from volcanic regions rises and forms pockets of open water. In the winter, these lakes serve as vital wildlife refuges, attracting mammals and birds for food and drink. The sight of open rippling water is almost wonderful in the bleak silence of a snowy plain, a reminder that life may persist in the face of adversity by finding warmth in unexpected places. Tiny animals build coral reefs. A coral reef may conjure up images of vibrant rock formations crowded with fish. However, the reef is alive, having been constructed by many microscopic creatures known as coral polyps. A strong calcium carbonate skeleton is secreted by each polyp, and these skeletons accumulate into enormous complexes over generations. Polyps form a living city in the water, with new generations living on top of the old. Thousands of species rely on coral reefs for food and refuge, and many fish use them as nurseries. They can span hundreds of kilometers, like Australia's Great Barrier Reef, despite their fragility. They resemble bright patches in blue water when viewed from above. However, when viewed up close, each ridge and curve is the result of creatures as small as a rice grain, gradually sculpting the ocean floor 1 minute layer at a time. For months at a time, some birds can fly without landing. One of nature's most industrious travelers is the common swift. It may fly for months without landing, feeding, sleeping, or even mating on the wing after leaving the nest. Swifts migrate thousands of kilometers, circling continents and using air currents to save energy, as scientists have observed. They can glide while a portion of their brain rests, falling asleep in short bursts. Other species, such as some albatrosses, use wind patterns to stay in the air while traveling great distances across the open ocean without landing. To think of spending so much time in the sky is to view life from a totally new angle, where the horizon is the only constant and the land is simply a far-off concept. Forest air has the potential to function as a natural remedy. You may have an almost immediate sense of tranquility when you enter a forest and take deep breaths. Phytoncides are substances that trees release that contribute to this. These substances aid in shielding plants from illness and pests. However, they have the ability to reduce stress hormones and even strengthen the immune system when inhaled. Shinyoku, or forest bathing, is the term used in Japan to describe this contemplative time spent in forests. Studies have demonstrated quantifiable health advantages following time spent among trees. Thus, the effect is not limited to psychology. It seems as though we share a tiny portion of the forest's resiliency. An intimate conversation between two living things that is carried by the air itself. New islands can be formed by volcanoes. Molten rock may accumulate during an underwater volcano eruption and rise beyond the water's surface, creating whole new territory. Even though these volcanic islands are initially made of bare, hot rock, the gradual process of colonization is initiated by winds and currents that eventually carry seeds, birds, and marine life. While some islands become permanent habitats for people, animals, and plants, others are eroded away by waves and eventually disappear. The island of Surtsey, formed by an eruption off the coast of Iceland in 1963, serves as a living laboratory for researchers looking into how ecosystems form from the ground up. Earth is changing in real time as you see an entire island form where there used to be only ocean. Whole limbs can be grown back by certain animals. A salamander can create a new leg, complete with bones, muscles, and nerves, if it loses its original leg. Some animals are even able to repair spinal cord, heart, or eye portions. Lost arms can be grown back by starfish. Additionally, some can create a whole new starfish from a single limb if the central body is still intact. Specialized cells that can differentiate into any necessary tissue type are responsible for this amazing ability. Although our genetic pathways are much less active than those of humans, we do have some similarities. Scientists investigate these animals in an effort to find solutions for treating serious human ailments. Regeneration is more than just a trick in nature. It's a survival tactic that enables animals to evade predators and totally heal from harm that would otherwise be irreversible for most living things. Glaciers have the ability to flow like ice rivers. Glaciers appear to be stationary, yet they are actually always moving. Over the course of months and years, the ice flows like an extraordinarily sluggish river as gravity pushes it downward. The speed might range from a few centimeters each day to many meters during infrequent spikes. Glaciers change landscapes, create valleys, and grind rock into fine powder as they travel. Lakes, ridges, and rich soil are left behind when they withdraw. Without specialized equipment, it is practically impossible to watch a glacier move in real time. However, time-lapse photography and satellite imagery show their unrelenting, continuous motion, serving as a reminder that even the most substantial objects on Earth are not really still. Giant crystals can be found in caverns. The Cave of the Crystals is a secret room under a functioning mine in northern Mexico that was uncovered in 2000. Some of the biggest natural crystals ever discovered can be found inside. Columns of selenite up to 15 meters long shone in the low light. It is risky to enter the cave unprotected due to its intense heat and humidity. However, others have compared it to entering a dreamlike world where the walls themselves appear to be alive with light. Over hundreds of thousands of years, these crystals developed in mineral-rich water that was maintained at a consistent temperature. One more tangible sign of geology's gradual artistic creation. Some plants use subterranean networks to communicate. Fungi connect the roots of many plants beneath the forest floor by creating extensive networks of thin threads known as mycelium. Plants may communicate chemically, exchange nutrients, and even alert one another to pests thanks to this wood wide web. When a tree is attacked, it may send out signals that cause its neighbors to construct defenses. Alternatively, an older tree may give sugars to a sapling that is shadowed. This company obscures the distinction between community and person, exposing an ecosystem's hidden intellect. Below the surface, what appears to be a peaceful woodland is humming with calm chatter. Floating islands have trees sprouting on them. Mats of vegetation, roots and soil separate from the shore and float across the water in some lakes and marshes. Trees may eventually emerge, their roots tangled through the floating mass as grasses and shrubs take root. Some islands can float with the wind because they are small enough. Others break loose after momentarily anchoring. These floating woods, which can persist for decades, offer refuge to fish, birds, and insects below. They are ingrained in regional mythology in some regions of the world, locations that arise and disappear according to the seasons. They serve as a reminder that even a forest which is so grounded may become intrepid. Some butterflies are able to discern colors that humans cannot. All of the shades we see are a combination of the three fundamental colors of light that our eyes can detect: red, green, and blue. However, the eyes of certain butterflies are much more sophisticated, including receptors for ultraviolet and other colors. This enables them to perceive patterns that are undetectable to us on flowers and even other butterflies. They can identify mates, locate food, and evade predators because of their covert marks. Imagine a world painted with hues we don't know what to call them. That's what they see. A spectrum that is as real as the sun on our own skin, but outside of our experience. In order to survive, certain creatures can alter their sex. Sex isn't fixed in some fish species, such as wrasses and clownfish. The largest male in a group may transform into a female to replace the dominant female in the event of her death. To ensure that the population may continue to breed, several species instead transition from female to male. These changes are more than merely behavioral. Significant biological changes occur in the animals' bodies, affecting their reproductive systems, hormone levels, and even outward appearance. Millions of years of evolution have formed this survival strategy, which enables them to quickly adjust to the demands of their group. Without storms, the ocean's largest waves can form. The majority of waves are caused by wind. However, rogue waves can emerge out of nowhere and loom over the surrounding ocean without any storm warning. When smaller waves combine their force to build a single wall of water, which can be twice as tall as anything nearby, these giants are created. Previously believed to be a myth among sailors, satellites, and ocean boys have documented rogue waves, some of which have risen to a height of almost 30 meters. Although they are uncommon, they are destructive and strong enough to destroy big ships. They can appear and disappear quickly in the open ocean, serving as a warning that even in quiet conditions, the water can surprise us. Some flowers only open once every few decades. Some plants prepare for a single blossoming over the course of years or even decades. For instance, it can take up to 30 years for the agave to bloom, reaching a tall stalk covered in blooms before dying shortly thereafter. The uncommon Himalayan lily in the Himalayas waits years for the ideal circumstances before its pale blossoms appear. Mass flowerings frequently occur during these protracted pauses, overwhelming pollinators and guaranteeing that seeds are dispersed widely. In one brilliant short moment, it's a risk, but for the plants that survive, it's an opportunity to leave behind countless progeny. Depending on the season, several lakes undergo color changes. In some locations, the same lake may appear green in the spring, deep blue in the summer, or perhaps even pink. Changes in mineral composition, algal growth, or the way sunlight scatters in the water are frequently the causes of these alterations. For instance, certain microorganisms give Australia's Lake Helia its renowned bubblegum pink colour throughout the year, whereas other lakes change colour in response to fluctuations in their algae populations. It's difficult to believe the water hasn't been dyed while you're standing at the coast. However, the surface is painted in seasonal tones by the chemistry of nature. Some creatures never stop growing. Some animals have indeterminate growth, which is the ability to expand throughout their lifetimes, although the majority have a fixed adult size. As long as they eat enough and live long enough, many fish, reptile, and amphibian species get bigger every year. This explains why some crocodiles, turtles, and big catfish can grow to amazing sizes in the wild. Additionally, it implies that the oldest people are frequently the largest, bringing decades of experience to their slow, methodical actions. Animals can navigate thanks to Earth's magnetic field. Many creatures can feel Earth's magnetic field, from birds moving between continents to sea turtles traversing oceans. Their bodies contain specialized cells or magnetic particles that give them sixth senses, which enable them to navigate even in the absence of visible markers. When clouds obscure the sun or stars, some people utilize it as a backup. Experiments indicate that changing magnetic cues can affect an animal's direction. However, the precise mechanisms are still being investigated. They appear to be carrying an invisible compass that is adjusted to the planet's position. Some trees are able to walk in search of sunlight. The walking palm has several stilt-like roots that can gradually replace one another in some regions of Central and South America. The tree will eventually shift its trunk somewhat if one side of it is shaded, because it will grow new roots toward the light and let the old ones die away. It is a slow-motion form of movement that challenges our notion of plants as completely stuck in place, even though it does not stride over the forest. It can alter position by several centimeters annually, which is sufficient to reach better circumstances. Water can be stored for years by certain plants. Finding water when none appears to exist can be crucial for survival in the most hostile settings. Massive water reserves are stored in the trunks, stems, or leaves of some plants, such as desert succulents and the African baobab tree. Through years of drought, a baobab tree's trunk and swell may support thousands of liters. During dry seasons, these stockpiles also provide food for mammals, insects, and birds. These plants are living reservoirs that retain life inside until the globe turns green again in areas where rain may not fall for months or years. Floating islands have trees sprouting on them. Land fragments may separate from the shore and drift away in some lakes, marshes, and wetlands, taking their vegetation with them. Usually created when the shoreline is loosened by heavy rains or floods, these floating islands start out as mats of tangled roots and soil. With time, grasses, shrubs, and even mature trees may establish themselves atop them, with the buoyancy of the thick root system beneath balancing their weight. Some are big enough to hold whole miniature forests, while others are tiny enough to move with every breeze. They provide protection from terrestrial predators and serve as havens for insects and birds that nest there. Some local stories describe islands that silently float across the lake, appearing and disappearing with the seasons. Even if a forest is moving slowly, it feels like something shouldn't be able to notice. A reminder that even the landscapes that are most grounded might choose to stray. Some butterflies are able to discern colors that humans cannot. Red, green, and blue are the three main hues that the human eye can perceive. We can see our whole visible spectrum from these. However, other butterflies, such as the Colin bluebottle or the painted lady, have much more sophisticated vision. They can see colors and patterns that are undetectable to us because their eyes have extra kinds of photoreceptor cells that can sense UV light. Like runway lights on a runway, these concealed patterns on flowers direct them directly to nectar. Ultraviolet patterns on other butterflies can indicate health, mate readiness, or caution. Although scientists think it would be like adding whole new colors to the rainbow, we are unable to envision exactly what their world looks like, colors for which we lack names. Flowers that appear normal to our eyes have a continuous glow and patterns that come and go with the shifting light. In order to survive, certain creatures can alter their sex. Survival in the underwater environment is frequently determined by social equilibrium. For instance, clownfish have a dominant female and dwell in small groups. In the event that she passes away, the largest male changes into a female to replace her and maintain the group's continuity. When the hierarchy requires it, some wrasses and parrotfish make the opposite switch, going from female to male. Reproductive organ remodeling, broad hormonal changes, and occasionally even variations in body size or color are all part of these alterations. It's a long-term change rather than a transient disguise. Because of this adaptation, reproduction can go on regardless of the group's structure. It may appear remarkable to us, but in these ecosystems, it's just a useful tactic developed over millions of years that keeps life going when conditions shift. Without storms, the ocean's largest waves can form. On quiet days, some of the ocean's biggest walls of water emerge, although most people picture towering waves churned up by violent storms, referred to as rogue waves. They are created when the energies of several smaller waves perfectly align to generate a single, enormous crest. Constructive interference is a phenomenon that can produce waves that are twice as tall as those nearby and occasionally higher than 30 meters. Ocean sensors and satellite data have finally verified rogue waves, which were once thought to be sailors' myths. In a matter of minutes, they can emerge from an otherwise ordinary sea and disappear again. They frequently have no warning on ships that are in their path. It would seem as though the ocean itself had decided to rise when we saw one from the deck, a sudden wall of water obstructing the horizon, reminding us of how strong and erratic it can be, even during seemingly peaceful times. Some flowers only open once every few decades. For one stunning moment, some plants gather energy for decades. For instance, the agave grows slowly for at least 30 years before erecting a tall stalk that is covered in hundreds of blooms. It dies after flowering, leaving seeds for the following generation. Before revealing its beautiful blossoms, the rare Himalayan lily in the Himalayas must wait years for the ideal temperature, sunlight, soil moisture, and other factors. In order to maximize seed spread, these plants frequently draw swarms of bees when they finally bloom, overwhelming them with an abundance of pollinators. This is a risky gamble, years of endurance for a single, fleeting opportunity to procreate. The plant loses its long-term investment if the moment is unsuccessful. When it does, however, the scene changes as though the ground has been preserving beauty for one brief moment. Depending on the season, several lakes undergo color changes. It is possible for the same body of water to change color in specific locations. Seasons can range from deep blue to vibrant green and occasionally even pink or red. Seasonal algal blooms are typically the cause of these changes. Variations in the amounts of minerals present or the way sunlight reflects off the water. Mineral-rich pools at Canada's Spotted Lake glow yellow, green and blue in the summer when the water evaporates. Microorganisms in Lake Hillier, Australia, give the water a bubblegum pink colour all year round. However, comparable alterations are transient and linked to seasonal cycles in certain lakes. It can appear as though the lake has perished overnight from standing on the shore. But it's all the result of nature's chemistry, serving as a reminder that landscapes can change drastically without any human intervention. Some creatures never stop growing. Some species continue to grow throughout their lives, while the majority of species have a fixed adult size, a characteristic known as indeterminate growth. As long as they eat enough and are healthy, many fish, reptiles, and amphibians get bigger every year. For instance, saltwater crocodiles can grow for decades before becoming enormous apex predators, and giant catfish in Southeast Asia can grow to a length of over 2 meters. Because of their gradual growth, the largest individuals are also the oldest, and their sheer size frequently allows them to dominate their surroundings. These species' seniors possess decades of survival expertise, including when to avoid danger, where to obtain food, and how their presence can influence the ecology as a whole. Animals can navigate thanks to Earth's magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field, which is invisible to us, circles the Earth and acts as a secret map for migratory species. In order to reach the precise beach where they hatched, sea turtles utilize it to cross oceans. Between breeding and wintering grounds, birds travel thousands of kilometers, modifying their routes as magnetic lines gradually change. To locate the best conditions, even microscopic organisms, such as certain bacteria, align themselves with magnetic fields. Researchers think that this sensitivity might be caused by specific proteins in their eyes that respond to magnetic fields or by tiny magnetic crystals inside their bodies. Regardless of the mechanism, it serves as a reminder that animals sense forces that influence every path they take and experience levels of the environment that are invisible to us. Some trees are able to walk in search of sunlight. The walking palm has a special ability to adapt to shifting light conditions in the deep rainforests of Central and South America. It develops several roots that resemble stilts and can spread out in different directions. The tree can move its trunk slowly, sometimes by several centimeters each year, if a portion of it is shaded. It does this by sending out roots toward areas that are brighter. The tree eventually stands in a slightly different posture as the older roots on the shaded side die back. This adaptation lets it survive in dense forests where sunlight fluctuates regularly as other plants grow, even though it doesn't walk like animals do. The migration is gradual and nearly undetectable as it moves in the direction of the light. Water can be stored for years by certain plants. Some plants have adapted to retain enormous volumes of water within their tissues in arid environments where rainfall is infrequent and erratic. During years of drought, the baobab tree, which is indigenous to areas of Africa, may support thousands of liters in its enlarged trunk, supporting both the tree and the animals and humans that depend on it. Thick leaves and stems allow desert succulents to retain water, which is then shielded from evaporation by waxy coatings. Providing hydration during the most severe months, these natural reservoirs serve as lifelines for entire ecosystems. The water that these plants store frequently makes the difference between the life and demise of the organisms that share their habitat. The water in some of the bays is illuminated at night. After dusk, the sea comes alive with a gentle, unearthly radiance in a few unique coastal locations. Dinoflagellates, which are minute organisms that emit light when disturbed, are the inhabitants of these bioluminescent bays. The water becomes liquid starlight as tiny sparks are ignited by every splash, paddle, and passing fish. One of the most well-known instances is Mosquito Bay in Puerto Rico, where the light is so intense that you can use it to follow a swimming turtle's course. Like fireflies on land, the effect is caused by a chemical reaction inside the creatures. These luminous displays, which can be spectacular to see, are made possible by warm temperatures and calm, shallow waters. Lift your hand out of the water after dipping it in. As though the ocean itself is attempting to preserve your memories, droplets briefly sparkle before vanishing. Every year, certain mountains get taller. Although some mountains appear to be stable and unchanging, they are actually still rising. Deep below the Earth, tectonic forces are the cause of this. The crust is forced upward when continental plates meet, forming mountain ranges that keep expanding by millimeters every year. As the Indian plate pushes against the Eurasian plate, the Himalayas, home of Mount Everest, continue to rise. Although mountains are gradually worn down by erosion, in locations such as these, the uphill force is greater than the downward force. Geologically speaking, it's a quick process, but it happens too slowly for us to observe on a daily basis. Using accurate satellite data, scientists can track this progression, seeing peaks rise over decades. It serves as a reminder that even seemingly timeless and ancient landscapes are always changing due to the same planetary forces that created them. Some creatures can survive for months without oxygen. Although most living things on Earth require oxygen to thrive, some have developed the ability to go for remarkably long periods of time without it. For instance, the painted turtle may hibernate for over 4 months underwater in frozen lakes by slowing its metabolism and converting to anaerobic energy generation in order to survive without oxygen. In deep oxygen-poor sediments, certain worms and tiny crustaceans have evolved to obtain energy in ways that completely avoid oxygen. More astonishingly, researchers have found Heniglia sinicola, which resemble microscopic jellyfish and have no mitochondria. Thus, they never consume oxygen. For these creatures, oxygen is not merely a choice, it is essential. These adaptations demonstrate that survival can take on shapes we never would have thought feasible by enabling them to flourish in settings where most life couldn't exist for more than a few minutes. From the air, rainbows might seem as complete circles. Rainbows always appear as arcs from the ground, with the horizon concealing their bases. However, they can occasionally appear as complete circles when viewed from above, such as from an airplane or a tall mountain. This occurs because sunlight is refracted and reflected inside raindrops to create a rainbow, which is actually a full ring of light. The lower half of the circle is cupped off by the ground on land, making it invisible from a high altitude. The whole ring comes into view. These circular rainbows, sometimes encircling the shadow of their aircraft, are a common sight for pilots and are referred to as glory. It serves as a striking reminder that the beauty we perceive frequently only represents a portion of the larger picture. And that viewpoint can actually show a world that has existed all along but has been hidden from view. Some deserts have temperatures lower than ice. We picture blazing heat when we think about deserts. However, dryness, not temperature, is what characterizes a desert. Antarctica and the Arctic, the world's largest deserts, are frozen regions with so little precipitation that they are considered deserts. With temperatures below -70 degrees Celsius, Antarctica is the world's coldest, driest, and windiest region. But beneath the ice, resilient lichens cling to exposed rocks, and microbiological life endures in pockets of liquid water. The striking contrasts, the eerie blue glow of ice caverns, the blinding whiteness of snow under unending summer daylight, and the frozen stillness that can endure for generations without change are what make these polar deserts as harsh as any hot desert. It serves as a reminder that desert isn't always associated with heat and sand. It can sometimes symbolize silence and ice. Strong winds can cause waterfalls to flow uphill. Under some circumstances, strong winds can catch a tall waterfall's falling water and force it back upward, giving the impression that the water is defying gravity. On coastal cliffs, where ocean winds are directed upward against the rock face, this phenomenon is most prevalent. The waterfall may seem to reverse due to the power of the wind. Streaming into the heavens was its spray. The water isn't actually returning to its source. They're breaking it up into mist and taking it away. Only as long as the gusts persist does the spectacle last. However, it can give the impression that the laws of nature have temporarily changed, changing a familiar environment. Before sprouting, some seeds can endure for thousands of years. Protected by hard exterior shells, seeds are nature's time capsules. Some can remain dormant for decades, waiting for the ideal circumstances for them to sprout. In one amazing instance, researchers were able to bring back to life a date palm seed that was almost 2,000 years old and discovered in the ruins of Masada, Israel. Seeds from some Arctic tundra plants can survive in frozen soil for even longer. With its stored nutrients intact, the embryo stays suspended inside in a state of almost zero activity. The seed awakens and starts to grow when warmth, moisture, and light return, spanning countless periods of time in a single act of rebirth. The plant seems to have been holding its breath for eons, waiting to come back to life when the time is right. Certain animals are capable of self-cloning. Certain animals are capable of producing genetically identical replicas of themselves without mating. Although it happens in more complex species as well, asexual reproduction is a prevalent occurrence in simple organisms. Lost arms can be grown again by starfish, and occasionally a single limb can grow into a whole new starfish. Other insects can lay eggs that develop into clones without fertilization, while other freshwater hydras simply bud off smaller duplicates of themselves. Cloning enables a species to proliferate rapidly in stable circumstances without the requirement for mate finding. Less genetic diversity has the drawback of making populations more susceptible to change, but under the correct conditions, it's a wonderfully effective strategy for ensuring survival. Some plants are able to determine the number of hours in the day. Numerous plants have a circadian rhythm or internal clock that aids in timekeeping. In order to determine when to flower, grow, or shed leaves, some people use this capacity to calculate the length of the day, a process known as photoperiodism. Some chrysanthemums wait for days to be long enough to guarantee summer pollination, whereas others bloom only when nights reach a specific duration. This timing can be so accurate that, even in the absence of sun cues, plants housed in artificial light cycles will open and close their flowers at the appropriate times. Because of their subtle intelligence, plants are able to adapt to the changing seasons and end their lives. Clouds can weigh more than mountains. Millions of tons of water can be contained in a single massive thundercloud, which is significantly more massive than a whole mountain. Because the water is supported by rising air currents and suspended in tiny droplets or ice crystals dispersed over a large region, it doesn't fall all at once. Some of that water condenses and falls as rain, hail, or snow as the weather changes. With their undersides churning with shadow and their tops dazzling white in sunshine, these enormous clouds can reach heights of kilometers and soar high into the skies. It's difficult to believe that something so light could be so hefty, yet one is on the horizon. Still, they float above like a bunch of feathers. Boiling water can kill some species. Water temperatures in the harsh conditions surrounding deep-sea hydrothermal vents can surpass 100 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to instantaneously kill the majority of life. However, some microbes known as hypothermophiles flourish in this environment. They can survive when others would perish because they have developed proteins and cell structures that are resistant to high temperatures. Some inhabit the scorching outflow from land-based geysers, including those in Yellowstone National Park. Tube worms, clams, and crabs that congregate around vent holes are supported by these heat-loving microorganisms, which serve as the foundation of vast food webs. By investigating them, we have discovered enzymes that are capable of withstanding temperatures well above those previously believed to be suitable for life, which has challenged our knowledge of biology and broadened our hunt for life in hotter environments than Earth. They silently thrive when water boils and darkness falls, demonstrating that the boundaries of life are much broader than we previously thought. The depth of the ocean is greater than the height of Mount Everest. The Challenger. Deep, the lowest known point in Earth's seas, is located in the Mariana Trench, which is located far beneath the Pacific Ocean. It is deeper than Mount Everest above sea level, at around 11 kilometers below the surface. Most submarines may be crushed by the pressure there, which is more than 1,000 times higher than at the surface. The temperature is slightly above freezing, and there is complete darkness. However, life is present here as well. This crushing environment is home to tiny arthropods, odd snailfish, and hardy bacteria that eat organic matter that drifts down from the upper ocean. Unmanned probes have studied the Challenger Deep's strange terrain of slopes, trenches, and deposits, but very few people have ever been there. It serves as a reminder that some of the most remote areas of the Earth are still mostly uncharted, not in space, but in the quiet depths of the oceans on Earth. Some fish produce their own light displays underwater. Many animals in the deep sea use bioluminescence to create light because sunlight never reaches there. Some fish utilize it to communicate in addition to luring prey or hiding from predators. For instance, the flashlight fish can blink by concealing the light-producing structures behind its eyes with skin flaps. In the dark, lanternfish may be able to identify one another because of the light patterns that run the length of their bodies. Certain species produce patterns in the water that resemble Morse code by flashing in rhythmic pulses. These spectacles, which feature a floating ballet of lights in complete darkness as if the ocean floor had its own constellations, can be captivating. Without sunshine, light transforms into a language expressed through glows and flickers that tells tales we have only just begun to comprehend. Certain plants have the ability to taste when consumed. Despite their apparent passivity, many plants are able to detect and react to injury nearly immediately. Certain plants can identify particular molecules in a caterpillar's saliva when it bites onto a leaf. Defensive compounds, which are harmful or bitter substances that reduce the leaf's appeal, are released as a result. In certain instances, the plant even sends out signals into the atmosphere to alert other plants in the vicinity to start their own defenses. This capacity is based on cellular chemical detection rather than taste bugs like ours. An insect perceives it as though the food abruptly becomes sour in the middle. The procedure demonstrates that plants are not at all ignorant. Their ability to read the world in subtle but highly effective ways allows them to actively participate in their own survival. In some locations, stones move by themselves. Large pebbles appeared to slide over the ground in Death Valley's Racetrack Playa, a dry lakebed in California, leaving lengthy tracks in their wake. Since no one had ever witnessed their movement, no one knew how they did it for decades. When scientists found that a small layer of ice formed beneath the rocks during infrequent winter conditions, the enigma was answered. Light winds gently push the rock across the slippery surface as the ice heats and fractures. It can take hours for a rock to move a few meters since the movement is so slow. As a result, there are odd trails throughout the landscape, suggesting that the stones traveled over the desert floor at night. Some birds can imitate nearly any sound. Some birds have a talent for creating impressions. The Australian lyrebird has a remarkable ability to mimic human voices, chainsaws, camera shutters, and other bird sounds. In North America, mockingbirds mimic frogs, insects, and automobile alarms by incorporating dozens of distinct sounds into their songs. These skills can be used to show off, protect territory, or attract mates, among other things. Young birds frequently pay close attention to their surroundings in order to learn their repertoires. These loud noises can also be passed down across generations by the finest mimics. It is unexpected and strangely lovely to hear a bird in the forest duplicate the identical sound of a barking dog. It serves as a reminder that the voices of nature are not always what they appear. Certain insects have UV vision. Many insects can detect ultraviolet light, showing patterns that humans cannot see because of our limited wavelength range. UV patterns on flowers frequently serve as landing guides, directing bees directly to the nectar. These patterns may appear to be luminous indicators in the dark to bees, butterflies, and certain beetles, who use them in part to navigate. Insects with UV vision can also detect predators or locate potential mates. They see hues and contrasts in the world that we cannot fathom. The same familiar sceneries, but with a hidden light dimension. There was a time when the Sahara Desert was lush and vibrant. The Sahara was a large savanna with lakes, rivers, and meadows thousands of years ago, rather than an unbroken stretch of sand. Hippos, crocodiles, and early human settlements flourished there, as evidenced by fossilized pollen, rock art, and ancient lakebeds. The tilt and orbit of the Earth caused monsoon rains to go farther north, changing the Sahara and creating this lush area. These patterns shifted once more over millennia, turning the region into the modern desert. It's a striking illustration of how drastically changing climates may impact entire ecosystems and the path of human history. Traces of its lush history lie hidden beneath the sand, just waiting to be discovered. Storms can last for generations. At least 300 years, if not more, have passed since the Great Red Spot, a huge storm bigger than Earth, began to rage on Jupiter. Jupiter has storms on a different scale than our own planet, which experiences storms that last days or weeks. The storm continues to spin with winds of hundreds of kilometers per hour, driven by the planet's tumultuous atmosphere and lack of a solid surface. It is visible from space as a red oval that swirls, a permanent mark in the cloud bands of the gas giant. By researching it, scientists can learn more about Jupiter and the potential functioning of other planets' atmospheric systems. Some frogs have the ability to become transparent. The skin of the glass frogs found in Central and South America is so translucent that it shows the internal organs. They can make themselves even more transparent while at rest by moving blood away from their skin, which helps them blend in with the leaves and evade predators. It's more than just camouflage. Additionally, it shields them from UV rays and helps control their body temperature. It's almost surreal to see one up close. It's like staring at a living anatomical model. Its movements and heartbeat are discernible beneath a fragile green exterior. During a season, certain trees can yield hundreds of gallons of sap. Large volumes of sap can be produced annually by some species, such as the sugar maple. As temperatures fluctuate between freezing nights and melting days in late winter and early spring, the tree's internal pressure fluctuates, forcing sap through its channels. In order to access this flow, farmers and foragers dig tiny holes and gather the liquid, which is primarily water with a trace of sugar. The production of 1 liter of maple syrup can require almost 40 liters of sap. However, a single mature tree may yield hundreds of liters during a favorable season. For humans, sap is more than just a tasty food. It nourishes new growth by delivering nutrients and water to every area of the tree. It's like seeing the heartbeat of a tree, flowing in time with the gradual approach of spring, as you watch the pure liquid trickle gradually from a tap in a bright woodland. Some rivers boil. A river called Shanaympishka, or boiling with the heat of the sun, flows deep within the Peruvian Amazon. Its water can get as hot as 100 degrees Celsius, which is deadly for small creatures that fall in. This river gets its heat from geothermal activity deep beneath, where water seeps deeply into the earth, heats, and then rises to the surface, unlike volcanic hot springs. Steam coils upward into the canopy as the boiling river, which is more than 6 kilometers long, winds through thick vegetation. It has spiritual and cultural significance for the local populations. However, it's also a scientific wonder and a reminder that the Earth's heat can dramatically alter the environment even when it's far from volcanoes. In the midst of the rainforest, you could hear the boiling water alive with heat and see leaves curling from the steam while strolling along its banks. Some creatures can survive completely in the dark. Some animals are born into a world without light and never leave it, even in the darkest caverns and pits. These animals frequently lose all of their eyes and instead rely on enhanced vibration, touch, or scent capabilities. For instance, the Mexican blind cavefish can navigate and locate food in complete darkness thanks to skin that can sense minute changes in water movement. To sense their surroundings without being able to see them, deep-sea animals such as tripod fish utilize their lengthy fins to feel along the seafloor. Vision is worthless in these dark conditions. Thus, other adaptations are a better use of energy. For these animals, living in the dark is very normal, even though it may seem restrictive to us. A full and prosperous life in a realm outside the sun's reach. Certain shells develop in flawless mathematical spirals. Numerous mollusks and other animals that produce shells have growth patterns that result in spirals that are so exact that they may be explained by mathematical formulas. For instance, the nautilus constructs its shell in a logarithmic spiral, adding bigger chambers as it expands but keeping its general form constant. The animal is protected, and its buoyancy is controlled by this powerful and effective shape. Such spirals are found in galaxies, hurricanes, and sunflowers, among other natural objects, suggesting a universal propensity for particular patterns. You are following a path that nature has replicated on wildly disparate scales when you grip a shell and trace the spiral inward. There are clouds that shine in the night sky, ranging from the tiniest seashell to the Milky Way's expansive arms. Delicate clouds can occasionally sparkle with a silvery blue light after sunset, high in the atmosphere, more than 80 kilometers above the ground. When ice crystals grow on dust particles in the upper mesosphere, noctilucent clouds are created. They are lit by sunlight from beyond the horizon, which shines against the fading twilight, rather than by the sun directly overhead. They appear nearly surreal and are especially noticeable in the summer and at high latitudes. The upper sky ripples with ghostly veils. As changes in Earth's atmosphere supply more moisture at high altitudes, scientists believe they might be becoming more prevalent. Observing them is like breathing in silver as you see the sky. Some spiders have the ability to sail across the ocean. Certain spider species employ silk for travel, a technique known as ballooning, in addition to making webs. They discharge strands into the air, which are lifted off the ground by the wind. Some spiders have been discovered hundreds of kilometers out at sea, their silk catching ocean breezes like tiny sails, although most ballooning trips are brief. Scientists think they can live by collecting insects in the air and resting on floating trash. Spiders can colonize new islands and isolated beaches thanks to this ability, becoming some of the first people to live there following volcanic eruptions or other upheavals. It's like seeing the start of an unlikely journey as you watch one float into the air, borne upward by nothing more than a thread. Without food, some creatures can live for years. Sometimes surviving in harsh situations requires going for extended periods of time without eating. By significantly slowing down its metabolism, the oelm, a salamander that lives in caves in regions of Europe, can survive for up to 10 years without eating. Because they store body fat, crocodiles and some snakes can go for over a year without eating. Even microscopic organisms, such as tardigrades, can go into a state known as cryptobiosis, which stops nearly all biological activity until things get better. There is more to these tactics than endurance. They demonstrate that patience can be just as crucial in the natural world as speed, by enabling animals to live in environments where food is provided in sporadic, unpredictable bursts. Under the sea, there are forests. Large underwater kelp forests that gently sway with the currents can be found off the coastlines of several continents. Fish, sea otters, and a myriad of other species can find refuge under the submerged canopy, formed by giant kelp, which can grow more than half a meter each day and reach heights of over 30 meters. By reducing the force of waves, these woods serve as nurseries for marine life and contribute to shoreline protection. The water has an emerald tint from some of the water passing through the kelp. Additionally, divers may find the fronds movement to be nearly hypnotic. They are intricate ecosystems, much like terrestrial forests. Here, however, the trees are fastened to the ocean floor by flexible blades that resemble leaves. Some birds have the ability to sleep while in flight. Some birds, like the frigate bird, don't land for days or even weeks at a time. By turning off one side of their brain at a time, scientists have found that they can rest and continue to fly while still getting some sleep. They can glide easily, riding air currents while being vigilant enough to steer clear of danger thanks to their uniphasic slow-wave sleep. They may hardly move their wings as they circle on rising thermals even when they are completely sleepy. They can travel great distances without pause thanks to this adaptation, which makes the skies their bed. When the wind blows across some rocks, they can sing. Strong winds in some desert environments can cause big rocks or dunes to vibrate, producing deep, resonant sounds that can be heard for kilometers. After a disturbance, these booming dunes or singing rocks may continue to make noise for several minutes, generated by the precise rubbing of rock surfaces or sand grains together. Centuries ago, Marco Polo reported hearing similar noises in the Gobi Desert. A natural low hum that seems to emanate from the soil itself creates an eerie effect, as though the scenery were releasing a slow, rumbling song into the atmosphere. Some deserts are composed entirely of white sand. Not every desert has golden wheat hues. White Sands National Park, a wide tract of dazzling white dunes that stretches as far as the eye can see, is located in southern New Mexico. Because it dissolves readily in water, gypsum crystal, which makes up the sand here, is uncommon in big dune fields. However, there is nowhere for water to escape from this desert basin. Thus, extensive gypsum layers were left behind when ancient lakes evaporated. Wind molded them into rippling dunes over thousands of years, which gleam pale blue in the moonlight and shimmer in the sun. It's nearly like walking in the snow here. Only the ground crunches softly beneath feet, and the air is warm. It is a shining desert unlike any other on Earth, and the whiteness is so bright that it can be seen from space. Certain jellyfish have an eternal lifespan. Turritopsis doni, a little jellyfish with an amazing talent. It has the ability to restart its life cycle by reverting its cells to an earlier stage when under stress, damaged, or close to death. It basically transforms back into a juvenile polyp and starts developing a new one instead of dying. Although it can still be eaten or suffer from illness, this process known as transification gives it the ability to potentially completely avoid dying of old age, making it physiologically immortal. These jellyfish, which are barely a few millimeters wide and have delicate bodies that are almost transparent, are found in waters all over the world. Even though immortality is still more of a survival tactic than a promise, it serves as a startling reminder that even something as permanent as aging can occasionally be changed in nature. Some ants discovered food on their own. Among the world's most diligent farmers are leafcutter ants. They chop and transport leaf fragments back to their underground colonies to feed a particular kind of fungus they grow in meticulously maintained gardens rather than for their own use. The stiff plant matter is broken down by the fungus into an ant-digestible meal. Because of the exact nature of this relationship, neither the fungus nor the ants can exist without one another. Millions of people can live in colonies, and each one has a distinct function, like protecting the nest, caring for gardens, or chopping leaves. Long before people ever started farming, millions of years ago, an entire agricultural system was impacted and is now concealed beneath the forest floor. Some flowers have an odor similar to that of decaying meat. Certain plants draw pollinators with their strong, rotting odor rather than their sweet fragrances. The Amorphophallus titanum, or corpse flower, can reach a height of more than 3 meters and emits a strong smell that resembles rotting flesh. Flesh flies and carrion beetles, which typically look for dead animals to deposit their eggs, are attracted to this odor. Rather, they aid in floral pollination. The bloom is uncommon. It usually only happens once every few years and lasts for a few days. The plant warms up during this period to assist in dispersing the scent. A huge, unearthly blossom that utilizes deceit to entice its assistants is a breathtaking sight for those who can handle the aroma. Certain trees can withstand full-scale fires. Some trees have adapted to survive even the most severe fires in areas that are prone to fire. For instance, California giant sequoias are protected from heat by their thick, spongy bark, which can reach a thickness of 60 centimeters. Certain eucalyptus and pine species may quickly recover from fire because their buds are shielded beneath their bark. In actuality, fire is necessary for many trees. It drives out rival plants and promotes the germination of their seeds. For example, heat causes sequoia cones to open, releasing seeds into newly removed nutrient-rich soil. These modifications ensure that fire is a beginning rather than an end by transforming destruction into opportunity. The Earth's magnetic field is visible to certain creatures. Some animals seem to be able to sense the planet's magnetic field, such as some birds, sea turtles, and even dogs. It is believed that this sensation, known as magnetoception, originates from small magnetic particles in their bodies or from unique proteins in their eyes. Some mammals may utilize it to orient themselves when traveling, sea turtles to return to their birthplace, and birds to navigate during migration. These animals use the magnetic field to guide them over great distances, much like an invisible map overlaying the landscape. The continuous awareness of the invisible lines that encircle the Earth is a sensation that is unimaginable to humans. You can see for hundreds of feet in some lakes because they are so clean. There are some bodies of water that are so pristine and unspoiled that you can see down to incredible depths. For example, With visibility up to 80 meters, New Zealand's Blue Lake is regarded as the world's cleanest natural freshwater. Water that has been filtered through sand and rock layers, which remove almost all particles, gives it its clarity. Staring into the ocean in locations like this is like staring into a different universe through a glass window. Fish schools appear to float in mid-air, while the colors of the lake bed emerge with a startling clarity. Rare and delicate, such virgin waters are readily tainted by even minor disturbances. The songs of certain whales can be heard throughout vast oceans. Long, intricate sound sequences that might go on for hours are the hallmark of humpback whales' eerie melodies. These tunes are effectively conveyed by water, traveling hundreds or even thousands of kilometers over the deep ocean. Males sing most frequently during the breeding season, and their songs can evolve over time, spreading like changing folk tunes among whale communities. They might be used to establish territory, lure mates, or facilitate long-distance communication, according to researchers. It's like hearing a voice from another planet when you listen to a whale song that was recorded far from the coast, powerful, slow, and in tune with the ocean's immensity. Blue lightning can occur during certain storms. Some volcanic eruptions can produce bright blue lightning bolts. However, most lightning is white or yellow in color. Volcanic lightning is the result of ash particles in the eruption cloud colliding and accumulating electrical charges. The ionization of volcanic gases, such as sulfur dioxide, is what gives it its blue hue. These infrequent storms are deadly and magnificent. The rowing ash plumes were illuminated by their ghostly glow. Blue lightning appears almost strange against the dark sky, as though the volcano were calling forth fire from another world. Some mosses are able to endure in space. A remarkable ability to endure the harsh conditions of space has been demonstrated by certain moss and other basic plant species. When reverted to normal settings, mosses exposed to the vacuum, radiation, and high temperatures of space resurrected in studies conducted on the International Space Station. Specialized proteins and cellular structures that guard against dehydration and DNA damage are the source of their resistance. They are therefore useful subjects for studying the potential survival of life on distant planets. A subtle yet potent reminder of life's resilience is the ability of a tiny green carpet of moss to thrive when nearly nothing else can. Certain mushrooms have a black glow. Bioluminescence is the term for the soft, unsettling light that some fungi emit in woodlands all over the world. Luciferin, an organic substance also present in fireflies, is involved in a chemical reaction that produces this illumination. According to scientists, the light might draw insects that aid in the spore's spread, or discourage animals from eating them. On dark evenings, the brightest specimens, such as the Mycena curaphos mushrooms of Asia or the foxfire fungi of North America, can cast a ghostly green glow across the forest floor. Unaware that these were actually living fungi at work, visitors for generations told tales of blazing logs in the forest. It is unearthly to stroll through such a woodland, as though the earth is covered in fallen stars that glow subtly till daybreak. Certain plants are able to survive completely underwater. Although many plants can withstand periodic flooding, some are perfectly suited to live underwater their whole lives. Thin, flexible leaves that move with currents and specialized tissues that transport oxygen from the leaves to the roots are features of aquatic plants such as pondweed, eelgrass, and some kinds of water lilies. Similar to land plants, these plants use the water to absorb dissolved carbon dioxide rather than the air. Fish, amphibians, and innumerable invertebrates find homes in the thick beds of underwater vegetation that cover clear, shallow lakes. By absorbing extra nutrients, they also aid in sediment stabilization and water cleanliness. These underwater gardens are as important to their ecosystems as any forest above the surface, although they are hidden from view. More than any other animal, some insects migrate. Tiny globe skimmer dragonflies set off on an incredible annual journey of more than 18,000 kilometers, crossing the Indian Ocean from India to Africa and back. This may be the longest migration of any insect, spanning several generations. In addition, monarch butterflies travel amazing distances, thousands of kilometers, from the United States and Canada to their wintering homes in central Mexico. Environmental cues such as temperature, day length, and even the Earth's magnetic field influence these migrations. It takes tremendous endurance and navigation for such small organisms. Their travels cover enormous distances that even the biggest and strongest animals find difficult, demonstrating that in the natural world, ambition knows no bounds. In karst environments with caverns and fissures in the limestone bedrock, some rivers vanish underground and then resurface miles away. Rivers have the ability to disappear underground, moving via hidden passageways before resurfacing further downstream. In the Philippines, the Puerto Princesa underground river descends more than 8 kilometers before emptying into the ocean. Explorers may occasionally be able to trace these secret streams through enormous subterranean rooms with mineral glistening ceilings. Both underneath and when they reappear in the light, these vanishing rivers create distinctive ecosystems, tunnels, and feeding springs that sculpt the terrain above and below. In certain forests, the root system of every tree is the same. There are 3 groves composed entirely of individuals. They are one organism that is interconnected underground. For instance, aspen forests can develop from a single root network by producing suckers or additional trunks. Each tree may appear unique from above, yet beneath the surface they are genetically identical and share resources like nutrients and water. The largest known example is Pando, a quaking aspen colony in Utah that is said to be thousands of years old and covers an area of more than 40 hectares. The forest can quickly recover from harm because of this subsurface link as new shoots emerge to replace destroyed ones. Some flowers undergo color changes to appeal to various pollinators. As they mature, certain flowers change hue to communicate with possible pollinators. For instance, the lantana camar, a tropical plant, begins with yellow blossoms that eventually become orange and crimson. Pollinators, such as bees and butterflies, soon discover that older blossoms are less lucrative, while younger flowers contain more nectar. The plant's chances of reproducing are increased by this hue shift, which makes sure pollinators concentrate on the blooms that are most likely to be fruitful. After pollination, several alpine species' blooms change color to alert pollinators to save time. A silent visual dialogue between animal and plant. There are some salt-only mountains. Massive salt deposits were left behind when ancient seas drained millions of years ago in several places of the Earth. These deposits were gradually forced upward into mountains by tectonic pressures. A remarkable example is the Kunamak Mount of Salt in Iran, which has sparkling white slopes speckled with mineral hues. There are elevated ridges of pure salt along the perimeter of Salar de Uyuni, the biggest salt flat in the world, which is located in Bolivia. Wind and rain gradually erode these salt mountains, exposing crystalline formations and occasionally even caverns. Their beginnings serve as a reminder that the highest locations on Earth today were formerly ocean floors. Certain plants may recall previous droughts. Certain plants can modify their growth and water use in response to previous drought experiences. Researchers have discovered that some plants may recall a period of extreme dryness by altering the expression of particular genes. They react faster in the event of another drought, releasing defensive compounds and sealing their leaf pores to preserve water. Instead of using a brain, this memory uses chemical signals that have been preserved for a long time after the original occurrence. Because of these adaptations, they are able to endure in erratic environments where resilience can make the difference between surviving and dying. Some fish have the ability to jump up waterfalls. Some fish must swim upstream against strong currents and scale waterfalls to reach their breeding areas during spawning migrations. The most well-known for this achievement are salmon, which propel themselves with amazing accuracy and land in the pools above each waterfall. Smaller species, such as Hawaiian gobies, use fins that resemble suction cups to climb waterfalls and slither over sheer rock cliffs. Although tiring, these migrations are necessary to guarantee that the fish return to the precise habitats in which they were born. A striking demonstration of willpower against gravity itself can be seen when a fish repeatedly throws itself toward a thundering waterfall. There are lakes buried deep beneath the sand in some deserts. Large subterranean reservoirs, known as aquifers, can be found beneath the arid surfaces of some deserts. These subterranean lakes, which can span hundreds of kilometers in regions like the Sahara, contain water that was once rain thousands of years ago. Sometimes, through oases or springs, this water rises to the surface, forming green patches in otherwise barren areas. In other instances, only deep digging can disclose it, because it is trapped far below. People, animals, and plants all depend on these subterranean lakes for survival, demonstrating that the possibility of life-giving water can be silently stashed away, waiting for its time to emerge, even in the most hostile environments. Go back. Some animals can live in freezing water as well as hot water. Conditions that range from intense heat to freezing cold are home to some of the planet's most arduous survivors. Although they can withstand near-freezing conditions in between eruptions, some kinds of extremophile bacteria flourish in deep-sea hydrothermal vents where temperatures can reach 100 degrees Celsius. Antifreeze proteins in the blood allow the Antarctic icefish to survive in sub-freezing waters, but other species that can withstand extreme temperatures have comparable adaptations. Microscopic water bears known as tardigrades can withstand freezing cold and scorching temperatures by going into a condition known as cryptobiosis, in which their bodies become dry and their metabolic processes resemble those of test stars. By surviving in environments that would kill most living things, and flourishing in areas where extremes coexist side by side, these species demonstrate that the bounds of life are significantly more flexible than we realize. Some birds use the stars to guide them. Birds that migrate have been able to travel great distances with remarkable accuracy for thousands of years. Certain species, such as the indigo bunting, orient themselves at night by using the positions of constellations surrounding the North Star. These celestial cues are also recognizable to young birds raised in captivity who have never experienced migration. Other stars are used as navigational indicators in the southern hemisphere. Birds use this starlight map in conjunction with their perception of the sun's position and the Earth's magnetic field to form a complex navigation system. Planetarium experiments have confirmed that the night sky itself is their guide, as changing the star patterns might cause confusion. It is an innate ability that has been refined over innumerable migrations and predates human navigation. Some animals address issues by using tools. Many animals have shown that using tools is not exclusive to humans, as was formerly believed. Termite fishing rods are made by chimpanzees removing leaves from twigs. As they float, sea otters split apart mussels on their chests with stones. When it's safe, crows pick up the nuts they've dropped into roads for drivers to scoff at. When foraging among jagged coral, dolphins have even been seen to shield their snouts with marine sponges. These behaviors frequently call for education, ingenuity, and perhaps intergenerational instruction. Using tools blurs the distinction between instinct and problem-solving, revealing that animals have a variety of intelligences and that we have more in common with other animals than we may realize. Caves exist that are able to breathe. The air appears to flow in and out of certain cave passages as if the cave were alive. This breathing occurs when air is forced into or out of the cave's apertures by variations in the outside air pressure brought on by weather or temperature changes. The effect can be quite powerful in vast networks of caves. Robust enough to blow out candles close to an entryway, shift dust, or even rustle plants. Wind Cave in South Dakota and Mammoth Cave in Kentucky are well known for this occurrence. It serves as a reminder that underground areas are dynamic when one enters one of these caves and feels the chilly air rising from the soil. The living atmosphere above them is linked to them. Some trees emit fragrances to alert people to danger. Certain trees emit airborne compounds in response to insect attacks, which spread to other trees of the same species. In response to the warning, these nearby trees produce toxic or bitter substances in their leaves, which deters the pests from choosing them. This is a characteristic of acacia trees in Africa, which emit signals into the atmosphere that can cause a whole tree stand to defend itself nearly at once. The same substances may also draw parasites or predators that prey on the attacking insects. It's a wind-borne, quiet alarm system that transforms a forest into a community that watches out for its people. Underwater rivers and waterfalls can be found in some oceans. Currents that flow like rivers down the ocean floor can be produced below the sea's surface by variations in temperature, salinity, and density. These underwater rivers occasionally overflow ledges to create submerged waterfalls. In the Denmark Strait between Greenland and Iceland, the largest known occurrence is where dense, cold Arctic water flows beneath warmer Atlantic water, descending almost 35,000 meters higher than Dalsau, which is 3 times the height of Angel Falls. These unseen fluxes affect global climate patterns, move nutrients, and change ocean circulation. Without going well into the night, we are unable to observe these rivers and waterfalls. Certain creatures have the ability to see in total darkness. Some creatures can see without light by detecting other cues, or they have eyes that are tuned to detect even the smallest glimmers of light in the deep seas and lightless caverns. Some deep-sea fish, like some snakes, can detect infrared heat signatures from their prey, while others have huge, sensitive eyes that can detect bioluminescence traces. Due to their unique retinas and reflecting layers behind their eyes, cats and owls are able to hunt at night by enhancing the limited amount of light. They can communicate, forage, and travel in areas where human eyes would only see darkness thanks to their adaptations. Some plants have the ability to emit heat. In early spring, certain plants, such as eastern skunk cabbage, can produce enough heat to melt nearby snow. Rapid chemical reactions in plant cells give rise to this ability, known as thermogenesis, which generates warmth rather than conserving energy. In cold weather, the heat increases the flower's activity and releases smell, which helps draw pollinators. Other plants in tropical areas employ heat to make their aroma stronger, which attracts pollinators farther away. Although uncommon, this capability demonstrates that plants have the capacity to control temperature in ways that we typically only think of in relation to mammals. There are rocks that predate the continents. Zircons are mineral grains that are found all over the planet and are more than 4 billion years old, older than the oldest known continental crust. Soon after the planet's surface cooled enough to support liquid water, these microscopic crystals, which are frequently no larger than a grain of sand, formed when the planet was still young. Zircons, which can be found in locations such as Western Australia, have withstood geological recycling, burial and erosion, and they contain chemical hints about the early conditions of the Earth. To hold one is to hold a piece of the planet's early years. Insects are capable of walking on water. Water striders are able to skim the surface of ponds and streams without sinking because of their long, delicate legs. Their legs have small hairs that repel water, which makes this feasible. In addition to the water's inherent surface tension, they glide effortlessly to capture prey or evade predators by employing quick, precise motions. It's like seeing tiny skaters perform on a liquid stage as they dash across a still surface. Every motion leaves flawless waves in its wake. Some forests are capable of producing their own clouds. Large woods contribute to the formation of the clouds that float over some tropical regions. Through a process known as transpiration, trees release water vapor, which releases moisture into the atmosphere. This vapor condenses into clouds when it cools, and this cycle is repeated every day in dense forests like the Amazon. Not only do the clouds provide rain to the forest, but they also affect the weather thousands of kilometers distant. Deforestation has even been shown by scientists to decrease cloud formation, which can change entire climate systems. When viewed from above, these clouds created by forests resemble gentle blankets drifting over verdant oceans of foliage. They are all the result of innumerable microscopic breaths from the living world below. Certain animals are able to identify themselves in mirrors. Although self-recognition was traditionally believed to be exclusive to humans, the mirror test may be passed by a number of animals. Great apes, dolphins, elephants, and even some birds, such as magpies, can examine areas of their anatomy that are typically invisible by looking at their image in a mirror. This implies a certain degree of self-awareness, the knowledge that this is who I am. Animals who have a little, innocuous area on their bodies during trials frequently utilize the mirror to look at it or attempt to get rid of it. Although not all organisms meet this criterion, those that do suggest a level of consciousness that humans are only now starting to comprehend. Certain plants have the ability to consume small creatures. The Venus flytrap, sundew, and pitcher plant are examples of carnivorous plants that have evolved to capture and consume animals, primarily insects, but occasionally even tiny frogs or lizards. They obtain additional nitrogen and minerals from their prey because they reside in nutrient-rich soils. Every species uses a different hunting technique, such as deep pitchers loaded with digestive fluid, snapping traps, or sticky leaves. After an animal is captured, the plant absorbs its necessities for survival and gradually breaks it down over several days. These characteristics enable plants to flourish where others would perish, since they are survival-oriented rather than aggressive. In some lakes, the water is so thick that sinking is nearly impossible. Although the salt content of some hypersaline lakes, such as the Dead Sea between Israel and Jordan, is extremely high, the water is much denser than the human body. People can float on the surface without treading water thanks to this density. Although some bacteria can survive in the salty depths, most aquatic life cannot live in these lakes due to the similar characteristics. It seems weird to swim here. It's more like resting on a huge cushion than swimming in water. Additionally, you can stay upright with ease because the buoyancy is so strong. Some birds construct buildings that are more intricate than those made by humans. In Australia, male bowerbirds are well known for building ornate bowers in an attempt to entice potential mates, constructions that resemble arches or huts and are embellished with feathers, flowers, shells, and even colourful plastic fragments they come across. To impress women, each man creates his own style by arranging items according to size, shape, or colour. In contrast, weaver birds construct elaborately woven nests that are hung from branches and include entrance tunnels that are intended to ward off predators. These skilled architects create homes and exhibits that are as intricate and beautiful as those created by humans, thanks to their accuracy and inventiveness. Some stones enlarge with time. Troants are strange rock formations that appear to develop and change size and shape over decades in several places in Romania. These stones may seem to form new layers after a period of intense rain because mineral-rich water may penetrate through their porous structure and deposit more material. Even while the development is extremely slow, just a few millimeters per year, it challenges the idea that rocks are static. These stones have the potential to fracture or take on odd bulbous shapes if left unattended for generations, giving the impression that the surrounding area is dynamic and restless. Some animals have been around for hundreds of millions of years without changing. Some animals have remained essentially unmodified over incredibly long periods of time because they are so well suited to their habitats. For instance, horseshoe crabs have survived many global extinctions and have existed on the planet for more than 400 million years. Previously believed to be extinct, the coelacanth is a deep-sea fish that still moves in a similar manner to how it did more than 300 million years ago. These extant fossils serve as a reminder that change isn't necessarily a result of evolution. Sometimes it entails creating a design that is so successful that it stands the test of geological time. There are areas on Earth where people have never set foot. There are regions of the world where no human has ever set foot, even in this day and age of satellites and international travel. Some are deep ocean depths, secret caverns, or isolated mountain peaks. Others are remote islands or areas of dense rainforest that are inaccessible. These unspoiled locations act as living time capsules, preserving ecosystems that have not changed in thousands of years. They serve as a reminder that even with our reach, a large portion of the planet still belongs to itself. Under Antarctic ice, there are rivers. Hidden lakes and rivers flow in the dark beneath the enormous ice sheets of Antarctica. Geothermal heat from below and the tremendous pressure of the ice above keep these subglacial streams liquid. Large lakes are connected by several of these rivers, forming whole unnoticed drainage networks. By carefully digging through the ice, scientists may investigate them and uncover microbial life that has been isolated for millions of years. These hidden rivers demonstrate that water flows and life continues to exist even in one of the world's coldest and driest regions. When the wind blows over their dunes, certain deserts sing. Some sandy deserts have loud humming tones that can be heard for kilometers due to moving sand or constant winds. When grains of a particular size and dryness glide together in sufficient quantities, producing a resonant resonance, the resulting sand is known as singing or booming. Like a musical note played by the landscape itself, the sound can be so powerful that it fills your chest. These noises are still among the most bizarre and exquisite natural occurrences in desert regions, as Marco Polo noted when he traveled through the Gobi Desert centuries ago. Thus, our gradual exploration of nature's hidden treasures comes to a peaceful end. We have traveled from old trees to dazzling bays, from singing deserts to breathing forests, and we have learned that the inventiveness of life is limitless. Some of these tales dealt with animals and plants surviving harsh environments and figuring out how to survive in places where it seems impossible to live. Others focused on landscapes that seem to have been painted purely for the purpose of being seen, as well as beauty, colors, and patterns. And a lot of them dealt with mystery, things that we can only partially explain, which allows amazement to continue to grow. Imagine, while you sleep now, the leisurely rotation of a forest canopy creating its own clouds, or the silent pulse of a bioluminescent bay at night. You might stand beneath an old tree that has endured more seasons than we can count, or you might float through an underwater kelp forest. There are many places in the world that you might never get to see. Nevertheless, they continue to live, flourishing, changing, and keeping their secrets until someone looks. You really don't need to search far to locate them. Sometimes, in the cool smell of rain or the rustle of leaves, wonder is waiting just outside your door. I appreciate you allowing me to share these experiences with you this evening. You are welcome to view the following video now if you are still awake. However, you can let them go if your eyelids are heavy and your mind is wandering. When you wake up, nature will still be there, patient, ageless, and brimming with tales. Good night. Music, 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 music,